guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is going to feature some products from Spellbinders. I actually showed you some of the flower dies, but I didn't end up using them. I ended up using just all of the 3D emboss and cut folders. And then here I've picked out some cardstock. This is Peridot, Raindrop, I think it's Lilac, Waterfall, and I can't remember the pink one, but I'll link it below. So today, this is what we're going to be using. We're going to be looking at a couple of different ways to kind of have more, get more out of our 3D embossing folders with different inks that we can add. So I wanted these to be the star of the show, so I chose to do them monochromatically. So this one in particular, I can't remember the name of it, but it has like a pattern up top and then one below. So with these folders, you want to put the die in first and then put your cardstock over it. I do like to tape mine in place just to make sure nothing is sliding all over the place, and that the embossing folder isn't accidentally going to come open. So then this is the, I think it's the Butterfly and Flora or something like that. This one I've used in a video previously. I really like these, and these are on sale right now. I made this video probably like a week or two ago, and it took me probably like 3 days, honestly, because we're doing 5 cards. But all of these are on sale. Some of them are on clearance, but this one in particular, which is the one that I use most often in this video, is on sale as well. And they are, it's part of the Creep It Crafty sale, which also includes their cardstock, their color wheel cardstock, which is super nice. But it's through November 3rd, but then the ones that are on clearance stay on clearance. So the one with the butterflies won't be, but this one right here with the 3 archways is also on sale. And the arches, that's one of the reasons why I love these types of sales, like the kind of all-inclusive, because they usually include the nesting dies, and those can get so expensive to accumulate, but they are endlessly useful in card design, like just your basic shape. So the arches is what I'm going to use today with these cards, and those are also on sale. So that, like I said, is through November 3rd. I will link it below if you're interested here, because I don't want to do all of these in the same color. I've trimmed down my cardstock, and then I'm just kind of doing one at a time. The green, the Peridot, not this one that we're doing now, but the next one, my paper was big enough to do the medium and the small. So after I laid the dies down in there, I chose to do both of them. Here's where I recognize, like, hey, I could get a 2-for-1 kind of thing. So I chose to do those. And then actually I used them both in the design. So it worked out really nicely. So yeah, anywho, we're going to be doing just some inking to kind of bring a little bit more drama. Here's all the ones that I cut out. I did cut out like the butterflies and some of the flowers out of various, the same cardstocks, but like I cut some pink butterflies and some purple butterflies, and you get what I'm saying. And now we're going to get into the inking. So each one of these combinations is a 3-color combination. I am using Distress inks, but you can use whatever it is that works for you. And I'm just going to add some shading on top of this. My lightest color is going to be the color of my cardstock. And then I am going to deepen that up. Having those deeper colors and that kind of color gradient really adds a lot of interest without us having to do like too much work. We're just doing some ink blending. We're not coloring or, anything like that. So for this one, it's Kitsch Flamingo, Picked Raspberry, and Seedless Preserves. And I'm kind of working at a diagonal. The design that I had in mind for this one, since this is a full corner piece, is for this to be in the bottom right-hand corner. And then I'm going to use, I ended up using one flower, but I thought I might need the other leaves to fill it up. I didn't, in the top left. So it's going to create a diagonal design. And then I do like to do my ink blending twice, whether I'm doing a background or ink blending pieces like this. So once I move out to the darkest color, then I go back through into the lightest color. Again, I'm leaving the edges of that the color of the card stock. And that is going to act as my fourth color, which is my lightest one. For these two, honestly, it's a toss-up for me between the green and the teal, which one is my favorite. But I really like the way both of them came out. So for this one, I am going to add the darker shading to the bottom and let the gradient go up the design. This little guy, this little tag one, it has a "for you" that's like embossed into it. So I stuck with that for the sentiment. I just covered that portion up so that they could lay on top of each other and work together. I was actually really surprised how much I liked these because I was a little bit concerned. I was like, how is it going to emboss and not cut my embossing folder? But it doesn't. It cuts the cardstock, but it does not cut the embossing folder. And I have tried doing the same thing with like regular embossing folders, and it does cut the embossing folder. So there just must be some kind of Spellbinder's magic in there that makes it something with the thicknesses is my guess. But yeah, I like them a lot. They're very cool. It just, to me, like it gives you that embossed detail, which is so much fun, but then it kind of takes like the guesswork out of the design for you, especially for like these ones that are in the archways that have the flowers and stuff. Or like the big one is in the purple. Like those are big enough to carry a card and you don't really have to do really anything else, just put a sentiment on it. So here, this one, I ended up cutting 2 of these and doing kind of like like a little gap design with them. But this one is the raindrop, I think is what it's called. I think so. See, here's why I can't remember, because they came out with Color Essentials cardstock, and then they switched to their Color Wheel cardstock, and not all of the colors made the cut. So sometimes I get the names confused. But I think the names stayed the same though, but maybe not. I don't know. But so here I wanted to show you the butterflies. So some of them I'm adding shading to the middle of the butterfly. Some of them I'm adding on the outside of the wings, and some of them I'm adding to the bottom. So there isn't like a right or a wrong way to do this. I just didn't want all of the butterflies to look exactly the same. And so that is why I switched up the way that I was adding the color. But of course, if there's this particular way that you like it or a particular way that it's easier for you, that's fine too. And I didn't even take these colors out like as dark as they could go. A lot of times I will go all the way out to black soot because it just makes like a deeper, richer color of whatever my darkest actual color is. But I really didn't think that they needed it. I was pretty happy with the way that they came out. I could totally see this being like a card set that you could give as like a gift. I just think they're super fun. So as far as life goes, so yesterday was just not a good day. You guys just ever have a day where it's just like it's not a good day? And I always try to be like more upbeat and positive, and I am a big proponent of like giving yourself grace. Some days are just bad days, but isn't that the hardest thing in the world to apply to ourselves? It is so hard. Like yesterday was not a good day for me. First of all, I'm on a medication that makes me very, very sleepy. But the problem is it doesn't make you sleepy at bedtime. It makes you sleepy the next morning. So whereas maybe for the last, 30 years of my life, I've been able to hit the snooze button and kind of like drift there for 10 or 15 minutes. If I hit the snooze button on my alarm now, I will sleep for another 2 to 3 hours. So I was already aggravated with myself because I slept longer than I wanted to. Not that there was anything I could do about it. It just was what it was. I am hopeful that maybe I can change my medication, but that's another complication because it took me a really long time to find something that helped with my anxiety. Anyway, so I was already frustrated about that. And then, most of the day was okay. It wasn't like as productive as I would have liked it to be, but like we were getting things done. It just seemed like everything was, my sister likes to say it's a chore to do a chore. That is how yesterday felt. It was a chore to do a chore. So by the time that I picked up my little from daycare, I, had put steaks, I had marinated steaks during the day, like in the middle of my work day. And then I was trying to get together all of the things for dinner and finish up some things that I wanted to do for work. And it was just like a comedy of errors. Like everything just kept piling on until I was not the best version of myself. Like, having a toddler, I mean, is definitely like you end up cleaning up more messes and you're always talking. And especially when her and her brother are together, I'm always having to talk to both of them because they're just the bickering. I thought, man, with my age gap, I would be able to get away from it, but the bickering knows no bounds, you guys. It knows no bounds. So she had pulled out a bunch of thread from a sewing project I was working on. Let's go back to the card. So here I am using Better Press sentiments, but you do not have to. I liked these ones for what I was pairing them with, like those, I think it's fresh picked sentiments. I liked these ones the best, and you know that I like a white, I do love a white embossed sentiment on black cardstock. I am going to do that with my Better Press, but by all means, just stamp and heat emboss or stamp and die cut, whatever it is that you do for your sentiments. This is not something that needs to be done. This is just what I chose to do. So anyway, she had pulled out a bunch of thread and she had pulled off all of the little numbers on them, which like, whatever, I have bigger fish to fry. But then it was like getting time to eat dinner and I was like, we have to clean this up. And then she wanted to fight about it. And so I had told her multiple times that she needed to help clean up and it was time to do the things. And she was just not having it. And she is a very willful child. So eventually she landed herself in timeout. So while I put her into timeout and then I came back and I was cleaning up the rest of the table and then I set the things that I was working on for work on top of this pizza box. I don't even know why my kids like this. I think it's totally disgusting, but regardless, they like the Stouffer's mac and cheese. Caitlin actually calls it Nathan's mac and cheese just because he was the one who requested it, I guess, the first time. But anyway, so that's in the microwave. Well, you have to like stir it halfway through and then put it back in. Never, ever in the history of all of the times that I have made this has this thing exploded in my microwave. But yesterday it did. So I get the mac and cheese out of the microwave. I clean up the plate. I stir it up. I put the little cellophane back over it and then I put it back in the microwave. I set, like the spoon that I used, I set that down. And then I went to go talk to Jelly Bean about why we were in timeout. Because she's only just in there for like a minute or two because she's just 3. And so we came and we talked about that. Well, then I came back in, was cleaning off the rest of the table. I took my work stuff. I set it down on top of the pizza boxes that my husband had brought home from his overtime the other night. Hold on one second. So here I knew right away just by looking at how these were lined up that they would all fit on an A2 size cardstock. So I didn't even fight it. I just laid them out exactly the way that they were laid out in their packaging, and they fit on an A2 size perfectly. I cut these both out of black and white. And now we have to stop story time because we have to talk about the actual technique that you came here to learn, right? Okay, so here I have chose a couple of different inks. I have some distress inks, I have some distress oxides, and then I have a white pigment ink and a black pigment ink. So when it comes to, this is also a Tim Holtz brayer. You could use a speedball brayer. You could use whatever brayer you want. But this is Chip Sapphire in Distress ink. So when you're using darker colors, can you use Distress ink? Yes, absolutely. You can see it rolls on. It's fine. It looks very similar to the Distress Oxide when you roll that on. So either one for the rolling on purposes is going to be fine, just as long as you recognize that the Distress Oxide is going to dry back a little bit lighter than the Distress ink will. But either one is totally fine. I like to go a couple of different directions so that I get some more color on there, but you don't have to do that, as much or as little as you like. Where the difference comes in between the Distress inks and the Distress Oxides is when you want to go lighter. So in this case, we're using these teals. Salvage Patina is my lightest color, and you can see the Distress ink you cannot see at all. It is too light and the inking is too dark for me to be able to use the Distress ink. However, if I want to go lighter, I can use the Distress Oxide, and that will work perfectly because it has pigment properties. It will cover other inks even if those inks are darker. So this is where we would want to use our Distress Oxides if we're looking for a color match on the color that we want to brayer with. You would have to go lighter, to use the oxides. So for this one, you can also kind of mix, like, how we've done a lot of ink blending and we have, like a little bit of a gradient going on. So here I'm going to use the Seedless Preserves, and I'm going to do this about like 3/4 of the way up on each side. This is the same color that we ink blended with, but I am brayering with the oxide. And then I'm going to go in with the lightest color. This is the Kitsch Flamingo, but this is not going to give me necessarily as much contrast as I want. So I did choose to go back in with the Picked Raspberry. And again, I'm kind of overlapping some of those flowers that have the Seedless Preserves. And that way I'm getting not just a gradient in the ink blending, but a gradient in the brayering as well. If you are like Kelly, I don't have Distress Oxides. I don't have a lot of inks. I totally get that too. I also did not always have all of the things. So if you want to do this, I would recommend investing in a white pigment ink. That's what you see here. This is a very, very similar look to the lighter color Distress Oxide, and then a black. I did want to show you the difference between black soot in the oxide and a true black pigment ink, because this is, when you put it on, you're like, oh, that's black, until you compare it to an actual black. So this is like a soft black. I don't even know if that makes any sense, but that's what it is. It's like a soft black. And then I am cleaning these in between. I didn't even say that. I am cleaning these in between, so that way I don't contaminate my ink blending. So here I wanted to zoom in so that you could kind of see. It is a little bit softer. You'll really be able to see here in a minute when we go in. This is the Altenew Obsidian. This is my favorite black pigment ink. So I'm doing this just on the bottom half. I will eventually do the whole thing, but I wanted you to be able to see the difference. And then I'm going to dry it just like I did before with the oxides so that you can really see the difference. So especially the ones where they're both on there, the bottom is the obsidian, the top is the black soot. So there definitely is a difference. You can use whichever one you prefer. Maybe you like a softer black. That's totally fine. I love the drama in the cards. I want black. So here I am using my arches. I use these for 2 of the cards, and then we're going to get into the assembly. I apologize that for this one, I am still zoomed in. I was like so in the mode of making, I didn't even realize that I was still zoomed in. So here I am putting the white on top of the black, but I am putting the black offset to the bottom left. And then that way, no matter what card it's on, whether it's bridging a gap in between the design, like the pink and the blue cards, or it's sitting on, a little bit of a lighter design, maybe like the teal card, you can still see both of them and it's going to make it much more legible. And then each was paired with a sub-sentiment from those Better Press plates, that those were trimmed out. This one, I adhered everything flat. I think the only 2 I added foam tape for were the green and the teal. Everything else, I'm pretty sure I just adhered down flat. I'm like looking behind me at the cards to double check, so I apologize if you couldn't hear me. So anyway, back to my crazy story. So I get her, I'm cleaning up, I pick up my things for work, I set them down on top of the pizza boxes. The microwave beeps again because now the mac and cheese is done, and then I open the door and it has exploded a second time. So now I get to clean all of that up. Isn't that wonderful? Like, no, like I'm so sick of I'm so sick of cleaning up messes. I'm so sick of doing a chore for a chore. And so then, I clean that up. I am like, okay, I got to get my stuff together. My husband was outside grilling steaks. I was doing all the other things. Caitlin wanted pizza bagels. And I made those in the air fryer. So there was like all these different things that I was doing. So I go to like gather up my things and pick them up off the pizza box, and there is cheese all down like the underside of it. My sister was here who helping me. And like, cause she does, I think I've told you guys that she does work for me. So she was here doing some things and she was like, I'll get it. Cause like at this point I am losing my mind. I am not the best version of myself. I am very, very, very overwhelmed, and I am very, very, very aggravated. So we clean that up, and then, we're getting the things together. I tell my husband, like, hey, you're on your own for dinner because I have to be live. I had a live last night. I'm like, I have to be live in literally like 15 minutes. So I come upstairs to like get myself together. I'm brushing my teeth. No joke. I chipped my front tooth brushing my teeth. That was the kind of day I was having. And then in the middle of I couldn't get the layering guides to load. I was just having such a difficult time. The layering guides come as a PDF, but what are the thingies? The streaming software that I use will not load a PDF. So I have to turn all of them into JPEGs and then upload them. Well, for some reason they weren't uploading. There was a lot of them. It was like an extra big release anyway. But so like I was having to wait for that, and then I was running behind, which already makes me feel like terrible. So it was like I was behind the 8 ball the whole time. And then I'm like literally 2 minutes into this live, and I have not sneezed once all day long. I proceed to sneeze like 6 times in everybody's ear. If you were there, my apologies. And my nose will not stop running. Like I was sniffling into the microphone, and there was literally nothing I could do about it. I had to mute it like 3 times so that I could blow my nose in the hopes that it would stop. Guess what? It didn't. So by the time all was said and done, somebody had said, who was it? It was a very nice it wasn't Susan, but it was somebody else. Speaking of annoyances, my dog barking. Anyway, it was just like somebody had sent me a message and they were like, hey, I know when you got off your live, I know you absolutely burst into tears. And I was like 100%. That is exactly what happened. It was just a very overwhelming day. So today has been slightly better. Thank God. So anyway, back to the cards. So here I just wanted to show you with the rhinestones. I am bridging the gap in the design with these rhinestones because otherwise they look kind of a little bit separated. So I chose to do that. And then I also added some shimmer. We did use Distress Inks, which is water soluble. So that is something to keep in mind that, you need to scribble it off on a piece of scrap paper before you take it into another, color. And then I did add some white detail some white detail gel pen, to some of them, not all of them. No, yes, all of them. Of course I did. What am I even talking about? And then that was it. That was the last thing that I did. So I hope that you guys are inspired to try to do some inking with your embossing folders to get kind of extra out of what you have. Even if it's just a monochromatic card, it can still be, a wow card. It doesn't have to always have like a million different products. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time. Don't forget to check out that sale, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.